Greetings. This is Flashback Theater's rendition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, featuring Jade Ellis, with performances from Tyler Harting, London Dailey, and Eli Parker. How came this blood on your shirt sleeve? Oh, dear love, tell me. It is the blood of the old gray mare that plowed the field for me, that plowed the field for me. It looks too pale for the old gray mare that plowed the field for thee, that plowed the field for thee. How came this blood on your shirt sleeve? Oh, dear love, tell me. It is the blood of the old greyhound that chased the fox for me, that chased the fox for me. It does look too pale for the old greyhound that chased the fox for thee, that chased the fox for thee. How came this blood on your shirt sleeve? Oh, dear love, tell me. It is the blood of my brother-in-law that went away with me, that went away with me. And it's what will you do now, my love? Oh, dear love, tell me. I'll set my foot into yonder ship and sail across the sea, sail across the sea. And it's when will you come back, my love? Oh, dear love, tell me. When the moon sinks yonder in the sycamore tree, and that will never be, and that will never be.
It's true. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been. And am. But don't say that I am mad. The disease has sharpened my senses. Not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all is the sense of hearing acute. I hear all things in heaven and on the earth. And I hear many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. After my father died, my wealthy uncle thought me his own child. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. In fact, he had often labored to coax me from my melancholy. One could say that I loved him. For his land and gold, I had no desire. I often tended to his estate when he was out of the country. I paid him frequent visits.
There's a pretty young child. How goes your day, Annabelle?
This day is as well as any, I suppose.
Does your gloominess persist, my girl?
Will you now continue with metaphors of dark clouds and deep wells?
You don't favor feeble comfort from one so old and withered? One so near the grave?
Can fate say if you're any nearer than I?
Then let us talk of open meadows and vaults of gold.
Spoken by one who is blessed with both.
Sitting at this lonely depot of this passage of my life, gain in wealth, gain me nothing.
Ah, does your store stock melancholy as well?
One's register should arrange an array of currency, my girl.
It is impossible to tell how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object? There was none. Passion? There was none. Strange as you may consider it, I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. For as kind as was his smile, one of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so, by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. While my desire was solitude, the time arose to engage in the commerce of necessities. I had always avoided the town when I could, but its clamor was even worse at that moment. My sharpened senses quivered at the jangling orchestra of the street. How could my nerves remain at bay with such insipid cacophony?
Annabelle!
I knew who called out even before I saw her. The memories filled my ears before my eyes could witness how the passage of time had altered her unfavorably. She was my former grammar school teacher. There she was, heaving forward with the same infuriating smile. The crow's feet now at her eyes, her once bright cheeks now paled by time. At that moment, I pitied the man upon whose arm she had seized with greedy ownership.
Annabelle! It is you. My, but haven't you grown into a handsome woman?
Miss Poulter, I'm afraid you've caught me at a disadvantage. My appearance is not suitable for a reunion in the public square. I've drawn this simple ensemble for the market, nothing more.
You look lovely. And it's not Miss Poulter, as when you were a girl. It's Mrs. Dupine. Annabelle, this is my husband, Robert.
Pleasure.
So, you still live here? How marvelous. Are your parents well?
Dead. Both.
Oh, how unfortunate. I'm sure that you miss them deeply.
It's been pleasant to see you again after all these years.
I've retired from teaching, as you may have guessed. Robert is a law officer in town. After we were married, I adopted the domestic life, leaving the task of education of such bright children as yourself to younger years.
How charming. Don't let me detain you any longer. I must tend to my own matters as well, Miss
Dupine.
It was nice to meet you, sir.
Remember what I always taught you, Annabelle. Listen to your heart, and your head will always be clear.
It was brutal enough that I had to endure the inane rambling of that woman. But her husband stood there, staring at me. He spoke barely a word and merely touched the brim of his hat when we parted. I knew his eyes. His eyes were of the variety that savors. First, the physical features, and then attempts to devour the soul. Now is the point you fancy me mad, but the mad know nothing. You should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. My flinty barbs changed to merry meetings. There was an occasional visit with a fresh-baked pie. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Would a lunatic have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him. Well, look at you, Uncle Silas, already awake and ready to make a day of it.
Ah, there's my little sparrow. You've come to brighten my morning, have you?
Did you pass the night peacefully?
I slept like a dead one, and I have you to thank. Your morning visits have turned my anxious days into a mist. I sweep by ant hills as a hawk soars past mountains.
I've baked 24 blackbirds into a pie this morning. I hope you have an appetite.
Such a delicacy is meant as a meal for 2. Join me, my dear.
So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. I gained the sureness of experience with each nocturnal visit. My patience grew and became cocksure. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. I felt the extent of my powers bloom. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. To think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. It is now the 8th night. I will be more than usually cautious in opening the door. He's moving on the bed. The room is as black as pitch with the thick darkness. He can't see the opening of the door. Now, I'll slip my head in. And now, to open the lantern.
Who's there?
My thumb slipped upon the tin fastening. I'll keep quiet and say nothing. I know that groan. Not a groan of pain or grief. Oh, no. It's the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world sleeps, it wells up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo, the terrors that distract me. I know what the old man feels, and can only pity him.
It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is likely a mouse crossing the floor, a cricket which has made a single chirp.
To comfort himself with these suppositions is all in vain. All in vain. Because death, in approaching him, stalks with his black shadow before him and envelops his victim. And it is the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that causes him to feel, although he can neither see nor hear my presence within the room. Now, very patiently, I will open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. There. a single dim ray, like the thread of the spider, full upon the vulture eye. There it is, open, wide, wide open, dull blue with a hideous veil over it. I can see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for the ray is directed, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. In my ears drills a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I know that sound too well. Have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but an over-acuteness of the senses? It's the beating of the old man's heart. It increases my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. Quicker and quicker and louder at every instant. The old man's terror must be extreme. It grows louder. I say louder. Do you mark me? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of night, amid the dreadful silence of the old man's estate, so strange a noise as this excites me to uncontrollable terror. I will refrain and remain still. Wait, the sound might be heard by a neighbor. I must act. The hour has come. The deed is done. The heartbeat continues. Its muffled sound would not be heard through the wall. I am safe. The old man is dead. Yes, stone dead. I must take wise precautions for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head, and the arms, and the legs. Then I took up 3 planks from the flooring and deposited it all between the braces. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. I have made an end of these labors. Who could that be? What have I now to fear? I'll answer with a light heart. Yes?
Good evening. I'm sorry to trouble you so late.
I know you.
Of course. You ran into my wife and I in the village today. I'm Officer Dupine.
What a start.
My apologies, but a disturbance has been reported.
In this neighborhood?
There have been reports of screams coming from this house.
How alarming.
Do you live alone?
It's not my house. I'm watching it for my uncle while he's out of the country. Wait, I woke from a nightmare earlier in the night. I may have called out. Perhaps that's what was heard.
May I have a look?
Of course. Let me show you to his room. Look, this is where he keeps his money. And here is the silver candelabra. He rarely uses it. Family heirloom. But near the headboard is a vault. I fancy there's no harm in showing a police officer. This is where he keeps his gold. You can see why he didn't want to leave the house unattended. So, all of his valuables are still secure and undisturbed. Continue your investigation, Officer Dupine. I'll set a chair for you in the other room and make a cup of tea. Being called out at this hour, you deserve a little refreshment. I brewed a pot of tea and placed 2 chairs in the middle of the room. In wild audacity of my perfect triumph, I placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. Officer Dupine went about his search in a most perfunctory manner. It was obvious that he doubted there was foul play. My manner had convinced him. I am singularly at ease. I've made some tea, Officer Dupine. Please, feel free to search through this room before we take refreshment.
Any further search will be unnecessary. I will take that tea now.
There he sits, sipping his tea. Why doesn't he speak? His stare, his gaze, so disquieting. I can feel the blood drain from my cheeks. My head aches. There's a ringing in my ears. But there he sits, staring. I'll simply smile jubilantly to get rid of the feeling. I can wait. I waited patiently all those nights. I can outlast him. The beating. It's not within my heated brain. It's... Oh, no doubt he can see I'm pale. What can I do? There he sits, staring at me, sipping his tea. Why will you not be gone? It's late. There's no need for you to remain. Why do you sit there, staring? Can't you hear it? Does it not drive you to distraction? He's here. He's right here, you see? Is this the horrid spectacle for which you have been lying in wait? Almighty God, no, you heard, you knew all along, and you're making a mockery of my horror. He did indeed make a mockery of my horror, but let him have his way. Anything is better than the agony. Anything is more tolerable than the derision. I could bear his hypocritical smile, but his stare and the beating of the old man's heart still rings in my ears. I felt that I must scream or die.
And it's when will you come back, my love? Oh, dear love, tell me. When the moon sinks yonder in the sycamore tree, and that will never be, and that will never be. You have been listening to Flashback Theater's rendition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, adapted by Steve Cleberg and featuring Jade Ellis as Annabelle, Tyler Harting as the Old Man, London Dailey as Mrs. Dupine, and Eli Parker as Robert Dupine. The radio drama was produced by Flashback Theater under the direction of Steve Cleberg and Renata Dopp. Production management by Renata Dopp, with audio mixing and sound design by Cleberg Studio. Sound effects were from the public domain selections at freesound.org. The song, How Came This Blood on Your Shirt, was performed by Theresa Kibby based on the 19th century ballad Edward, collected by Francis James Child. Flashback Theater would like to thank our season sponsors for their support: Applied Behavioral Advancements, M&W Printing, the City of Somerset, Lake Cumberland Regional Hospital Residency Program, and United Cumberland Bank. In addition, the Kentucky Arts Council, the state arts agency, provides operating support to Flashback Theater with state and tax federal funding from the National Endowment for the Arts. Thank you to our sustaining season supporters. Subscribe to our Patreon for information on upcoming shows. Your contributions through Patreon help fund local theater and shows like these. Flashback Theater will return soon with another chilling tale from Edgar Allan Poe, The Mask of the Red Death.